Good morning, Dr. Clendenning. How are you?
Good, the Michael Libercci. How the heck are you, man?
Man, I'm kicking ass and taking names, dude. I'm excited for today's show and got a lot to cover. But before we get into that, why don't we talk about our show sponsor? We're going to
Yeah,
go
totally,
with
man.
Cyberbacker.
Yep, your time is priceless. Let Cyberbacker handle the rest. Check the QR code for some great discount offers on executive assistants, and that way you guys can do what we do.
Awesome. And then let's look at Opus Clips.
Opus Clip, multiply your reach without multiplying your workload. Opus Clips it. It is an awesome tool. Really loving it right now. If you're watching our short form stuff, that's where a lot of this is coming from. The only thing I want to say about our sponsors, they're not sponsors for fun. These are tools we use, and these are the ones that we know work, and that's what we want to promote to you. So check on the QR codes. Make sure you get those great discount codes.
All right. So let's dive in, dude.
Hey, man.
Um, I know you've been a busy guy, right? And you've been moving around a lot. It's a lot happening, man. At the time of this recording, we're what is it, like the 9/11 anniversary here. Major political figure shot in the media. Just all that's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'll get to that in a minute, but what I want to dive in with, right? And I've been again on my old surge, right? The old info recycled, right? All the way back in history on leadership. All the way back in history on leadership is probably the 60s, right? I mean, you go all the way back to Alexander the Great, who was what, taught by Socrates, right? And Aristotle, and then he went out and ruled the world, right? So, Malcolm Gladwell, right? Malcolm Gladwell.
Mm-hmm.
And you got all the way back there, right? There's all these kind of euphemisms, but I want to touch on leadership as action. And in some cases, especially as of the last calendar week, leadership as action really took to another level when a guy died for it. And somebody who's a little too good at what they do, the opposition frustration is whoever's opposing him. I'm not talking on a political level. Whoever the hell is opposing our boy Charlie, the world lost a good arguer, a good leader in his own right. And don't mistake this broadcast for being a political play, because you could take politics and you could shove it if you don't like what I'm saying. What I'm talking about is a person who was articulate, a person who had articulate counterpoints. And I don't care whether you believe him or not. You can't argue the fact that the guy did not have articulate counterpoints. And on whatever side of the aisle you fall on, how passionate are you about your cause that you stand up and put your life at risk for your cause?
Yeah.
That's embodiment of leadership as action. That's the embodiment of action right there. And it's a little bit sort of scary if you think about it, right? Like, it's cool, like in the privacy of wherever you're listening to this broadcast and us here, broadcasting. And when things are on the web, it's different. But when you're in real life and you're standing on a stage and then your life is no more because you're out there representing your cause, whatever your cause may be, and it's tough. So, leadership in action. Um, I know I'm kind of running on here, but at the same time, I've always struggled with owning my own influence. I've always struggled with being a leader. Always kind of, and maybe it was childhood trauma. I don't know, but I always struggle with looking a little stupid, sounding a little wrong, not being
Oh,
able
you
to
mean you're
influence
human? Is that what you're
everyone.
saying?
Was that?
You mean you're human? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And I just, you can't please everybody, right? And
Yeah.
you can't influence everybody. Obviously, you can influence people negatively without trying. I mean, listen, that happened to Charlie, so uh, it's uh, it's a shame. But how far are you willing to go to rise up? How far are you willing to go to push through against all odds, still lead, and still influence. And now, when I say, leadership is action, and what do you hear about it? What do you take? What do you think?
Well, there's a lot going on, and you're right. There's a lot going on in my universe too. And of course, we had, today being 9/11, there's always that remembrance piece, and I'm sure you do too. I remember exactly where I was when it happened.
Yep.
Right. I know what the temperature was, all the things. Like I vividly remember it. And whether I try to remember it or not, it shows up today. Like the minute I get up, I open up my calendar, September 11th, the memories cue back, right? I remember exactly what happened there. So it's a little somber in that today. And dealing with Charlie Kirk's passing, I knew him. He was not a friend, but I knew who he was. I had an opportunity to speak with him. Super, super cool guy. And to your point, his articulate. And I look back at whether you agree with what he's saying or not. One of the things I loved about him was his ability to be an orator. Much like, I'm going to use Barack Obama is another one. Whether you agreed with his politics or not, that man was beautiful from stage. The party did a great job. Don't care what party side you're on. They did an amazing job of picking a figurehead to represent them because he was excellent from stage at engaging his audience and leading them and getting buy-in on what they were doing. And that's a little bit of artistry in what he did. So when we talk about leadership and action, we talked about this last week or a couple of weeks ago. We talked about strengthening your argument instead of getting louder. And that is where I think both of these men, I'm going to continue to use them as the example, and you and I do the same thing. It's not about, if you ever watched any of Charlie's stuff, whether you followed him or not, and then you're still going to be able to see it. It's not that it's just getting removed from space. It was never an argument. It was always questions to understand where the other person's point of view was coming from and then display an opinion, whether they accepted it or not. It was a model of communication that he mastered through practice. And that's how he was demonstrating his leadership in action. Barack Obama did the same thing. Now, he had a staff of writers that helped him do that, and that's true, but his delivery was all his. It was all his own of how he did it. And he inspired people, not commanded them. And I'm dealing with a similar situation with a company that I coach, business that I coach, that has an HR issue. That their understanding of leadership is commandment. It's not even management, man. It is you do what I say or it's insubordination. It's beyond military control in a healthcare space. And it's created a very toxic environment. So that's not leadership. That's not inspiring. That's not impacting. So when we talked about this in our book, and I talked about it in my first book, and we talk about it from stage all the time, is what's the difference between leadership and management? How are you defining that? So I'll ask you that question. How do you separate the two? Because leadership and action is one thing, and dictatorship and management is another. And yet some people don't see it. So how do
Well,
you separate them?
there's four different layers of leadership, and there's like positional leadership, and then there's what you've done. People follow you for what you've done. There's title leadership, where that's positional leadership. If management is basically you're at a role that is predetermined, and people are supposed to follow you. That's management.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership is the direction of the ship, because you're going there and you're bringing everyone with you. And
Everybody's
there's
following a just cause.
just cause, but what you represent. Yeah, okay, what you've done, your track record. But anybody can come back. Like if you look at my early career, I made a million mistakes, a million financial mistakes, a million business mistakes. You know, I'm not looking for anybody to, I don't want to manage anybody. I'm not looking for anybody to follow me. What I'm looking for and what you're looking for is people to join us on this journey. We may lead a cause, we may lead total disruption, we may call it like it is, and we may say what it is without being completely using shock and awe terminology. But we talk about the real truth that real people are fighting with every single day. And if you actually listen to what we talk about, they're real world examples every single second. And the majority of them are the struggles that you and I have made. So, to your point, you have to build as a leader other people to be either along your mission or inspire them to go off on their own mission. I mean, that is your top tier, that is your level 5 leader. And it takes a while to understand that. But to be an orator and to communicate that allows people the mental buy-in to follow you, or in this case, oppose you, and create a well orchestrated plan to stop you from leading, or a well orchestrated plan to support you and push you up. And that I think gets lost in the mix when people hear different rhetoric and different words and emotions come into play. And you have to look at it from every perspective, right? No one methodology is the correct methodology. And
True.
it's just not. And there's a methodology for a time and a methodology for a place. Now I can see in a harsh environment, let's say we'll use your example. If somebody entered into a company and the company you're coaching is in complete disarray and it's going downhill, and it's kind of like, okay, either get on board or get out. There is no ifs, ands, or buts at this moment. I don't have the latitude right now to lead by committee. I need you to do this, this, and this, and this, and this, because this is what's happening. It's kind of like a ship sinking. Either you follow my plan or you can jump off, because I've got to save the ship, or we as a team have to save the ship. But I need discipline, I need adherence, and I need autonomy on this one. So I guess it's relative to what's going on. It doesn't sound like the company that you brought up is in that situation. So therefore, it is a toxic environment. And I guess it's the 80-20 rule, right? So if you can't empower people to do 80% of what you're doing, then you're not doing it right. And if you can't empower people to say, hey, can you do this 80% of what I can do or better? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And
You're
and
using the
and
right word though. You're using the word empower in
uh-huh.
order to get the buy-in. And I think that's the piece so much of where management gets lost, right? They lead by command
Right.
before they have buy-in. Like I think that's where you got to start. I think you've got to start with trust. I think, and we know that we kind of built a system around it. You've got to start with trust. You've got to get the buy-in, and then you have permission to say, all right, the ship is sinking, but we're following my plan. I don't think you get to start there with directive.
No, but I think it depends on the level of emergency. Yeah, you do. And then whoever sticks around and gets it, then you empower them. Right.
Right.
So
So okay, so here's an example. Let's play this out a little bit more. And you probably know the answer to this. I'm pretty sure you do. Let's say
but the
you're going to get on stage, which we know you're getting on stage at an event next week. Um, you've got what, 15 minutes that you're going to spend speaking from
end.
stage. You got 10 minutes from stage. How long do you have from a speaking perspective? Let's just play this out, because I think this is true in real life and I think this is true in business. From stage, how long do you have to capture your audience's attention such that they will hear your message? How
Two
long do you
tenths
think?
of a second.
Almost instantly. Okay. So you as a leader, and I think this is a great example actually. You as a leader know that that is true. So you don't get on stage and say, all right, damn it, you guys are all going to listen to me. That's how it's going to be. Because if you did that, what would happen? Nobody's
See,
listening. Everybody's going to go, you're a dork, right? But you get on and immediately shift into leadership and inspire. And you can do it in 0.3 of a second. I know you can do it in under a minute. I've watched it. I've been in the room when you've done it. So I think the same is true. I think this is a great analogy, in my opinion, and I'm going to use it. I think this is a great analogy for how you get buy-in. It's not buy-in over years. As a leader, real leaders, I think can get buy-in right away. I think that's where Charlie Kirk was amazing at it. I think that's where Barack Obama was great at it. You look at that JFK was great at it. And I've done some of the same stuff, under Mike's influences. I've gone back and listened to some of the older presidential addresses and listened to some of these because these guys knew how to deliver this was, and even way back, to Theodore Roosevelt, and Teddy's probably he is my favorite president, no question. You listen to some of his addresses, and man, he captured you immediately in his addresses in such a way that you were inspired to listen to the rest of it, to at least hear him out, be clear on what he had to say. And they're like like him or hate him, our current, doesn't matter, don't care, we're not talking about that. He's not the orator that those guys were. He's a business guy, it's fine. But he's not that orator. He's not inspiring. I don't necessarily look at currently that he's leading me. There's those people that are absolutely happy to do so. It doesn't do it for me. But to Mike's point, there's two sides. Not each one is right. And the reality is I'm willing to accept what is right now in that, okay, well, we all voted. That's who's in there right now. Okay. By democratic, how the policies work, politics, whatever. We're getting down that road again. Yeah, I'm going to follow it, but I'm not going to get on the extreme side of it. Like I personally, and here's the official political opinion. Can't wait to get the comments on this. I think the two-party system is absolute bull. I hate the two-party system because I believe it creates separatism. I believe it creates extremists. And I could easily prove that through yesterday's events with Charlie Kirk. We have an extremist that chose to do something really, really wrong. I mean, in all human morality concepts, that's just plain and simple, whatever my opinions are. But I really feel, and when we get this separatism, that's what creates this hatred. And this, that's the toxic relationship. The same is true in small businesses. The same is true as in your company. Same is true in your family, right? If we allow somebody's opinion, if we just don't accept it and say, hey, I appreciate your opinion, I appreciate your point of view, I hear you. You don't have to say anymore. You just move on. So I'm getting a little sideways on that because I'm pretty passionate about it today, about what's going on, because I normally, historically, with the notable exception of recording, September is a social media sabbatical month for me. This is a month I don't play in social media. We do all our pre-recorded stuff. I have my assistant, my cyberbacker, is taking everything we're doing. All the social media posts are going out. She's handling that. I'm not on there. But I got a phone call yesterday that, hey, you need to know Charlie Kirk was shot today. And I got on social media and I engaged. And as a result, I'm pretty hot and bothered about it today. So, look at what your influences are in that space. But I went down a way long different rabbit hole aside from the leadership. But I think back to the point of you speaking, your ability to capture and get buy-in right away. So that's a thing. Where'd you learn it? Where did you come upon that such that that's what you've got to do when you show up in order to be perceived as that leader on stage?
Speaking a lot and losing people's attention.
Experience.
Not getting the impact, experience, realizing, when you're in a conversation in a social setting and you're getting ready to go down a rabbit hole, and then you realize, I'm in a social setting. I just need a minute here because nobody really cares about the depth. That's kind of what you have to think about. I'm sure everyone listening to this has been in that situation where they were at a party talking to somebody and somebody's staring at them and they start to get past that 2 minutes of nonstop speaking. And then all of a sudden, somebody else interrupts by accident and grabs that other person's attention and they never come back to your story. It's, you see that happen a million times and it's like, okay, now I know. I just stick and move. If somebody keeps asking, then keep talking. And that's the same thing with public speaking. That's the same thing with leadership.
Yeah. So you mentioned stories. So I'm to date myself badly here, but
Nope.
Tyrion Lannister, Game of Thrones, my favorite character in Game of Thrones, hands down. Loved him in that role. Thought he was brilliant. Personally, I felt he was the main character. For me, that's why I watched the whole thing. We get all the way to the last episode where we're getting ready to name Bran king. And Tyrion has a speech that talks about exactly that. This was not planned. This just came into my head, by the way, guys. So he has a
Okay.
little speech at the very end where he asks the question to everybody, what makes a leader? What makes a king? What makes a ruler? What makes people follow you? He says, it is a title. Is it your right to rule? No, it's stories. Story, and who's got a better story? And marches down that road. So Mike just said stories. So that's and I coach the same thing to my executives when they're getting on stage from executive presence, when they're giving a state of the company, is what's the story that you can tell that engages your audience, that humanizes you, that also gets the buy-in. And it's the same rule, right? 80-20 rule is absolutely relevant in this. You're never going to capture 80% of a room right away. It is not going to happen. You're probably going to capture 20 if you're good. And I think that's totally fair. But that's your first follower piece. Once you've got 20% of the people that are following you, then they each get 20% of the people to follow them. Eventually you're going to be at 80% are willing to follow you as a leader, because you need those people to do it. Is that math mathing for you?
That math is mathing for me, man.
Nice.
So while we're on this, let's we got two more people to talk about here. Let's
Yep, Big View, your script, your voice, your brand. Big View makes it shine. We use this as teleprompter work for all of our video shorts. Again, hit the QR code for some great discounts on Big View. Kajabi, from idea to income, Kajabi makes it possible. This is our all-in-one platform where you find the guild, you find the inner circle, you can find all of our podcasts, our blog posts, our website, all the stuff and all the things exist within Kajabi. Hit the QR code, get some great discounts on that. And we appreciate them.
Yep, and we love Kajabi. So as we march down this road, and I do want to address self leadership, and I do want to address. I got a friend of mine who's out there, brother. You know who you are. Little bit of a backstep. Like life took a little strange turn, not from a health perspective, but just from a life perspective. And how do you lead yourself out of when you put yourself behind the eight ball? And nobody does it alone. Yet the same thing applies when you need to lead yourself and you're looking at your deficiencies and you have to look at what you're good at and you have to have the perspective. You have to influence yourself. You have to be your own counterpoint, but you have to believe in a forward moving process. And I find that if you need to lead yourself, it just goes back to basics, right? When you're coming down to deciding what you're going to do each and every day, sometimes it's just an internal emotional conversation. It has nothing to do with anything else. You might not have to have one of these storybook kick ass days. You just need to put yourself in a spot where you get to your next step and you influence yourself. You say, okay, out of everything I need to do, out of every character trait I need to overhaul because I'm in such a shit spot for my life, what is it that I need to keep climbing towards? And am I following a series of mental maze walls that I've put up? Or am I looking at the wide open ocean and I'm trying to get across to the other side?
Mm.
And I kind of feel like a lot of people out there, especially in today's environment, put up these mental mazes right now and they find themselves like reacting to each and every block, right? Like, so put my hand in front of the camera, boom. Oh, now I'm moving over here. Now I'm moving over there, right? That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is I've got a wide open ocean. I'm at the beach and I've got to get to the other side. I've got to get to land on the other side. Now, wherever, may not be 100% accurate. You might get over there and realize, oh, I went all this way and now I've got to go 200 miles north or 200 miles south, but the wide open ocean, each and everything that you come across is not necessarily a roadblock. Each thing is not always a lesson either. It's just an experience. You have to motivate yourself in your own attention span within the first 3/10 of a second before you go down a rabbit hole. Now, when it comes to self leadership, what do you think about that? What is the doctor version of what's going on here?
So there's something you said was absolutely true in all of that, and I'm going to come back around to it. So the first one is there's a lie we tell ourselves. I got myself into this mess. I'm the only one that can get me out. That is a bang jacked crap lie, period. Like that's it, right? Sure, you got you there, sort of, but I will bet you had some mentors and role models that helped you get the wrong way. You were hanging out with the wrong people, you were talking, having the wrong advice. You need to move them to the side. They're not your mentors and role models. When we get to that place of, crap, what am I going to do to get out of this? You got to pick up the phone. You got to pick up the phone and you have got to call those people, those mentors and role models that inspire you, that can help lead you, that for no other reason, for the betterment of you and their sheer care in you, are going to say, yeah, man, this is what I'd do in that situation. Or you got to read the book like Mike's doing. Mike's reaching back. He's got mentors and role models. They're not necessarily alive anymore, that he can reach back and go, what did they do when they hit that wall? What did they do? What inspired them? Self-leadership isn't about, I know what to do. Self-leadership is saying, I don't know what to do. I need help. That, in my opinion, is the self-leadership piece, is understanding somebody else did it and they're doing it better. I need to talk to them to see how I can move back up. So I use, in my first book, we did Rings of Impact, which is the 5 areas of your life and 5 people in each of those areas. So think about whatever you're tanking in, whatever the thing is, let's call it physical fitness for the hell of it, right? Who are the 5 people I'm spending the most time with? Are they 5 couch riders that are playing fantasy football, that are scarfing pizza? Then I'm going to be the 6th. Or are they the 5 marathon runners that are out there burning through shoes? If I hang out with them, I'm going to be the 6th. Better go buy new shoes because you're running a marathon. Think about who you're hanging out with and how they're inspiring you. And if you're hanging out with the wrong people, man, you gotta walk away. That's the self-leadership. And that, I'll tell you right now, it sounds simple. It's not easy.
Amen to that. Great words, Dr. Clendenning. I appreciate you, man. As always, your point of view is nonstop. Well, we're out of time. We thank you for tuning in to Total Disruption. Find us on the social channels. We're on every one of them. Like, subscribe, DM us over there. We are here for you. Total Disruption is always here as a voice of the absolute truth to what's going on. Until next time, for Dr. Clendenning, I'm Michael Libercci. Now it's your turn to disrupt. There we go. Editing. We're going to need it.